not all journalists have the courage to do what Ali Velshi did yesterday in a monologue as he described what the Supreme Court has yet to rule on and much more. But what he did is made the case why Donald Trump is a clear and present danger and why America must, in fact, defeat Trumpism. I want you to listen to this piece in detail. I chopped it up so that it'll fit in a more in a tighter time, but I don't think I missed anything. Check out this soliloquy by Ali Velshi. It could not have been done any better.
Chief Justice Roberts, in the majority opinion, wrote, quote, "The laws confirm what common sense suggests. When an individual poses a clear threat of physical violence to another, the threatening individual may be disarmed. When an individual poses a clear threat, that threatening individual may be disarmed." Does it apply to this individual?
Those J6 warriors, they were warriors, but they were really more than anything else. They're victims of what happened. All they were doing is protesting a rigged election.
The Supreme Court again today said nothing about that individual. He's not trying to buy a gun. He's trying to get complete immunity for the effort to overthrow the election that culminated in the violent attack on the Capitol on January the 6th, calling the convicted attackers his warriors, victims. Those are the people who beat police officers, hunted members of Congress, threatened to hang the vice president. He's repeating the lie that the election he lost was rigged. He has not been deterred in the least. He's doubling down. Trump is saying that he will pardon these criminals, offering them immunity and possibly the opportunity to do it again. And the court said nothing on that today, even though it's been 6 months since Special Prosecutor Jack Smith asked for expedited consideration of this matter. 4 months since a federal appeals court panel unanimously ruled that Trump should be disarmed by simply making him subject to the law like everyone else in this country. In the meantime, Donald Trump has been convicted by a jury of 34 felonies related to his effort to influence the 2016 election. And still, the Supreme Court is effectively immunizing Trump by helping him run out the clock on federal prosecution. Trump today is worse than he was in 2016 or in 2020. And he and the country will be worse if he is returned to the presidency. To protect democracy, America must defeat Trumpism. If Trump is able to come back from inciting an insurrection, the message will be that lawlessness wins, criminality wins, fraud wins, sexual assault wins, overthrowing the will of the voters wins, threatening to assassinate the vice president for upholding the Constitution wins, beating police officers wins, threatening judges and prosecutors and juries wins. If Trumpism wins, the candidate who comes after Trump will be worse because they won't be pretending like some Republican senators who are cowards, but know exactly who Trump is.
This is now multiple rallies where people are assaulted and beat up, where a guy gets sucker punched by one of the Trump supporters. And then instead of condemning it, Trump is silent. When the guy is released from jail, he says the next time maybe we should kill the protester. Again, there's silence. Then he goes on stage and makes things up. He keeps telling the story about a general who dipped bullets into pig blood and shot a bunch of prisoners, of Muslim prisoners. Not only is it outrageous, it's a lie. He has said to people, basically, beat up the protesters and beat up the hecklers and I'll pay your legal bills. There are people out there that are not completely in control of themselves. And they hear something like this from a leader, you don't know what they're going to do next. This notion that a president can just say anything they want, or even a presidential candidate can say anything they want, whatever comes to mind, it's just not true, and it's reckless, and it's dangerous.
You're not going to hear that anymore as Marco Rubio is on the short list to be a vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump. Instead of Trump paying those protesters legal bills, his supporters pay his legal bills now. His lies and attacks have led to death threats. In Judge Cannon's courtroom, every Trump objection is infinitely more important than voters learning through a criminal trial whether the former president stole classified documents, left them fully accessible to bad actors at his golf club, and what lengths he went to stop the government from getting those documents back. You cannot have a successful democracy when the governing vision of one of the two parties is Trumpism.
A lot of Republican politicians have surrendered to it. Of course, many of the same politicians who now publicly embrace Trump privately dread him. They know what a disaster he's been and will continue to be for our party. They're just too afraid to say it out loud. I feel no need to kiss the ring. I have no fear of Trump's retribution.
That was a great speech. She spoke truth to power. And you know what happened next? She said she's voting for Trump. But did you hear those cheers? That was Republican voters cheering the words, "I have no fear of Trump." Trump lost 16% of the vote in the Republican primary in Pennsylvania, 18% of the vote in the Republican primary in Arizona, 20% of the vote in the Republican primary in Wisconsin. All of those elections, all of those primaries were held after Nikki Haley dropped out. So even when there isn't somebody running against him, he's losing those numbers. Those voters weren't voting for Haley. They were voting for a better, saner party. Republicanism without Trumpism. Voting for what I like to call Myrna. Make Republicans normal again. I don't know if the Republican Party will become better if Trump loses, but I know our democracy will absolutely be worse if he wins. People in a functioning, healthy democracy are not forced to wait on tenterhooks, wondering, today, will democracy hold? Or will the Supreme Court give the guy who lost by 7 million votes a free pass for his coup? As former Attorney General Eric Holder put it, there is no cavalry coming. You are it. It's up to the voters to show that Trumpism is a loser and democracy will ultimately win. And honestly, is it really so hard to stand up to this?
So there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards or here. Do I get electrocuted? If the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? The late, great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner. Joe Biden's forming, granting mass thing.
This is what we need journalism to do over and over again. Spill the truth, spill the context, and then hope. Well, not hope, urge that the American people react as they should, see things as they should, see things the way they really are. That is what Ali Velshi did here, both with the narrative and the examples governing the narrative. Look, America, the truth of the matter is this. Donald Trump is a convicted felon, but while he is officially a convicted felon on the case in New York, a state case, the reality is Donald Trump is a felon even before he was legally called a felon, based on all that he's done, the misogyny, based on the theft of a 501c3, based on the selling of a university that really wasn't a university, based on stiffing people. There are so many illegalities this guy did, selling the White House right now, selling the White House to billionaires. Is that what you really want to hire as the president? The guy who actually said, inject bleach or put bleach in your orifices to solve the problem that he made very worse in a pandemic? I think it's high time for these pollsters or these polls to start reflecting some reality here. America cannot be this deceived. America cannot be this gullible. That is one of the reasons I contend that there will be a fever break that leads to a landslide. You can fool people for so long. People's prejudices can work for so long. People's carnality can work for so long. But when they realize that something ultimately becomes an existential threat, at that point, I think the change occurs. And I think that point occurs definitely before November, when people will start making the right choice. Ali Velshi is correctly right. America must defeat Trumpism, because Trumpism is nothing more than pure, unadulterated evil.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.